for us, please? Thank you very much. Malo e tau lava, tēnā koutou katoa. Welcome back into Busman 711. It's great to have everyone back again. And so, just want to take this opportunity again to sort of say that the structure of this will be sort of the first 20 minutes recorded where we'll have questions and answers, clarify any concerns around maybe that incoming reflection submission this Sunday. And then we'll stop the recording after 20 minutes and then we can just sort of leave it open to discuss whatever is sitting on people's hearts tonight in reflection on that module of corporate social responsibility for this week 5. And also, might I say, congratulations for making it this far into smack bang in the middle of the course. And I think that that's something to really applaud in that, it's a new journey for some of us, and it's a continuing journey for those that have finished those last 2 papers. And so we always need to stop and kind of see where we're at, recognize the milestone, pat ourselves on the back and kind of look forward and go, okay, what's coming up ahead? And so great, well done. So I'll leave it open. Billy, have you got anything? Would you like to add anything?
No, just, I can't believe we're in week 5.
I know.
Extraordinary. And just my apologies for not joining you last week. I will always be here when I can. And I'm sorry, this is the start to my quarter has been a little bit rocky with things. So I'm grateful that I'm here with you all this evening. Yeah, and looking forward to what questions you may have, or perhaps maybe you've got some questions relating to the assignment that you received back.
Yes.
So anything at all.
And I mean, I'm also going to give a couple of pointers just because I also did sort of oversee some of that marking. Billy had looked at a couple of those too. So I'll talk kind of briefly about that and just some holistic sort of stuff to feed back to the group. But just want to, again, opportunities for, open up for questions first before I hit on that, on those points for the assignment too. Any questions or concerns?
Yeah, I have a question, Cece.
Yeah.
So just, first of all, thank you so much for, the feedback and stuff that was provided with that assignment. Just my question is, for 1B, for my reflection, I've chosen to go with the approach where I've not really referred to the content in terms of using a lot of sources that need to be cited. So what I've done is just gone off, my own sort of reflection, and I chose to focus more on that. So I just want to know if that is something that I'll be sort of penalized for in terms of an approach from a marking perspective.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say, this reflection, I mean, Billy, help me on this one.
This reflection it was quite an open-ended question. Right? Yeah. We've asked you to reflect on whether you think social responsibility pays in any way, has any sort of benefit for an organization. So what expect to see if you're not using something from the course, if you're not referring back to a theory, that you might have something concrete that you're offering us as an example. Mm-hmm. So it can have that lovely kind of opinion, personal reflection, but we do need to see it anchored by something. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. Just finding something to connect our experiences to, backed up by theory, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because we've always got to keep it academic. Okay, so we've invited these quite sort of personal reflections, but we do need them to have that academic rigor to them as well. So that'd be terrific. And remember that you can edit, or you put in your formal submission. So
essentially having that sort of anchor foundation of either a source, literature, theory, or some framework that then you can kind of go, okay, this reflects my experience, right?
Mhm.
These are the examples, or it does, and this is how it does that. So a little bit of grounding there, always good. Yeah.
Thank
Hope
you,
that
guys.
helps. Thanks, Gordon, for the question. Iti,
Oh, cool. Hi, team. Hi, Ceci. Hi, Billy. Hi,
hey.
everyone. My question was around we did our reflection on Friday, and just in light of the grades that we had from the previous reflection, I was just wondering, is there any way that I know that you guys are okay with like light changes or but I was just wondering, is there are we able to not completely change it, but just rejig it so it's a bit more concise, that sort of thing, with reflection to
I
what
think
we
so.
at the grades we got? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. There's actually, it's really been interesting going through this process both last year and then again this year with such a bigger cohort.
Yeah.
And there's more confidence, and this cohort are bringing more confidence to the writing. So we're seeing more things. And I actually think, I'm thinking in an agile way here, Sissy, forgive me.
Yeah.
That I think it's great that you can actually reflect on that first grade that you
Totally.
got, also on some of the responses, because some of the conversations that I've seen unfolding on those discussion boards have been really amazing.
Yeah.
So I think, edit your reflection before you send it into us.
Awesome.
And maybe the suggestion of the light edit for the first one, I think we can be a little bit more
Generous there. Yeah, lenient on that one for the second one. Yeah, so Iti, go hard.
Yay,
Edit.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
And just one more thing, Sissy and Billy, it was just around, so I know that, by the end of this, we've got to get a certain amount of points. Yeah, just from my grade, I didn't, hit the 15 out of 15. So, is that going to, am I going to be like not passing this, or anyone in this situation is not going to pass this?
No, you're gonna no, Iti. Look, this is the first assignment, right? It really just gives you that kind of indication on where you're at. And also, we've got 5 more weeks. We've got another how many more assessments in which you're going to consistently progress, right? And so you're actually sitting okay, you're good. Everyone in this course right now is okay. And that 15%. Will add up at the end, but you're not going to fail with the grade that you got. No one in this course is going to fail with the grade in which they received for that first assignment. So have confidence in yourself, and we've still got a couple more assessments coming up in which you will see yourself progressing and seeing that grade go up. Billy?
Yeah. So I was going to add that we don't, in this course, we mark you according to the marks that you ought to be receiving. We don't sort of stick to a bell curve. So we don't have a certain proportion of people failing the course, right? So last time everybody passed. Yeah.
Okay,
so just keep the momentum up.
You broke up there, Billy. No, you literally broke up at the everybody and then stop. So, and it was like, yes, everyone passed last call.
Yeah. That's right. So I just want you to be aware of that. You're working at a graduate level. You're not coming in, it's not I don't know quite how I explain that. But we don't have an expectation that a certain percentage of you will fail. All right? Put it that way. Yeah. The expectation is that everybody can work at this level, and that we're here to help you and support you, and that your confidence and your skills grow as you work through the course. So we think you're doing really well.
Yeah, it's not one of those sort of, you have to pass a certain number of assessments in order for you to sort of pass the overall course. We are really trying to build your confidence in this, but in the same way, in the same vein, the rigor to your work, right? And the criticality and lifting that, elevating that for you so that when you move into the next paper, there's another elevation pitch there. And so this is, just reiterating what Billy said, we're not looking to fit people into a bell curve where there's a certain percentage that pass and a certain percentage of the cohort then fail. We're literally giving you the marks in which we feel reflect your work. Yeah. And so that first one is always going to be a bit of this is where I'm at. Now we've got a couple more things in which we need to do to progress that. Marcelina?
Hey everyone,
Hey.
I'm struggling to put my virtual background on, so sorry.
No worries.
I had my camera on. I had a question about Turnitin, because I noticed that I probably missed that whole step. How critical or what is the expectation with Turnitin? Because I realized that we are copying and pasting from the discussion board, or is that a step that you? I mean, I do realize from undergrad it is compulsory that we do use Turnitin, but I'm confessing that I didn't quite put it into the Turnitin system, but then I realized it was orange flag. So I'm just curious, or what your thoughts are in terms of using the tool Turnitin.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So in terms of the way that we use it, we're really just looking for whether chunks of work has been directly copied from sources, right, without actually acknowledging it appropriately. There is often also some of those cases. We haven't actually had it. We haven't found it in our particular course, where, sometimes people might copy and paste other people's work into their own, or kind of fold in other things. And so it's to try to detect that sort of stuff, right, Marcelina? So, I mean, yours was perfectly fine, right? Because we could see that's actually coming back and saying it's showing it's yours. Like, or the red highlighted bits is actually saying that's come from Marcelina's paper, that's hers. So we go, okay, cool. That's all good. So we don't necessarily then take any note of it for yours, right? So we kind of just have a brief look and go, okay, most of that red stuff is coming from which paper? It's hers. Sweet. Or that purple stuff is coming from Milton Friedman. Has it been cited? Yeah, it's been cited. Cool. Let that go. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. I'm not too sure if it just kind of went on a spiel on Turnitin.
No, that's cool. Yes, it does answer my question. Do we put our assignment into Turnitin system, or is that like done after? Because
my understanding is that it does it automatically when you put it through the. Does it? When you submit it through Canvas, or did you have to do that separately, Marcelina?
To be honest, I skipped that. I just kind of like submitted. I realized that there was, I don't know if anyone else noticed, like a tag on next to the grade. So I just thought I would double check, which we'll happily do. I just wasn't sure how to use Turnitin.
That's totally fine. Excuse me, I keep ducking. When I'm ducking away from the screen, it's because I'm coughing because I've got bronchitis. So what we'll do is we'll make sure that there are really clear instructions for you for the big report, so that you can pop it through turnitin.com yourself just for a check, right? So that it pulls up anything. It's just for your own peace of mind, all right? You'll get to see a Turnitin report. But it does do it automatically for us in terms of your final submissions when they come through to us. Yeah, so it's a good thing to know how to do.
Yeah.
I've had moments where I've got a funny, used to have like a photographic memory, But now what it tends to do is I remember these phrases and I'll write them and I'll not be certain if they're mine or if they're actually from something else that I've read. So turnitin.com can be amazing for helping with those sorts of things where you sort of think, oh gosh, that, you know, is that my words?
Yeah.
Or, you know, what's going on here? Yeah.
It's also got embedded in Turnitin sort of like a Grammarly, another sort of Grammarly function, which then kind of picks up on some of those things. So it's a multifaceted tool, which is quite useful to have, and that it will pick up the things in which Billy has said, you know, oh, you've written something in which you've, you know, not cognizant of having been already written before. It'll pick that up and go, oh, this has come from somewhere. You go, okay, cool. I can then quickly find a citation to put in there, pop it in the reference list, then it kind of clears me. And again, it's for that peace of mind. Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. It's good to see you, Mase. Any other questions? These are good questions coming in.
Yeah, kia ora. Sorry,
Kia
I'm late.
ora. Oh, sorry.
I was just I don't know if it's already been asked, so if it has been, then yeah, please put me back in my box. But the is there a limit? Is there any guidelines on how many references we have to cite for assignment 2A? Like, I'm just looking at it at the moment, and it's kind of, it's just it seems a bit open-ended.
Good question.
That is a good question. And we're going to leave it to the illustrious Billy to answer.
I've got Canvas in front of me, so let me just have a quick look. I don't think that we
specified.
Let me check though. Hang on. Did we say 10 that we would normally do?
12. I feel like it was 10 for long.
Yeah. No title page, except summary. References. Normally about 10.
10.
Sweet.
Good for this sort of length, because otherwise you're going to get into 10 to 12. Let me check up on that though. And sorry, I've just put my Canvas screen over the screen with all your faces. I couldn't see you for a moment there, but I'll check and I'll add that. I'll do a little announcement for the entire cohort immediately after we finish with the questions, just so that it sums that up for people who may not want to watch the video recording.
Oh yeah,
check
that's
that
a good
too.
idea. But yeah, generally about 10 to 12,
Yeah, I did think that we had specified somewhere, and I'm just going to have to.
I mean, I recall from
myself.
last. Yeah, I recall from last semester. Last quarter it was something like 10.
Yeah,
but we'll confirm that for you, Malcolm.
Beauty, thanks.
Awesome, thank you. And Lavinia,
can I just say too, so great to have these questions so that we are reminded where there might be little things, because the course is still so new, that we, tiny little gaps where we make assumptions. Yeah, so thank you.
Oh, kia ora. I just wanted to check with when we do put references in for assignment 2, are we able to rely on the references list if we are utilising the resources that are in this course? And the only reason I ask is because I did do that with assignment 1, because I was just getting myself back into that habit of referencing, even though we didn't necessarily have to. But I noticed one of the feedback points was that I had included the month for a journal, which you don't actually have to do, which I would have known if I followed the process properly, but I was also just relying on that reference list. So would you recommend that we don't follow the references list and actually make sure we do that properly ourselves?
That's a good question.
That is such a good question. You're talking about the reference list that comes at the end of the
yes,
course.
so not yes,
yeah.
right at the bottom. Yeah.
Which one was it that you were told?
It was the "Can I see your social license, please?" So I had mucked a couple
the Jenkins
up
one.
When I moved them over, yes. When I copied them over, and I think it was just about making sure that I had it right. I didn't italic some of the titles, which I'll know to make sure that I do in assignment 2. But one that I sort of didn't realize that I probably didn't have to do was the not including the month of November in the title. So just wanting to be sure that we maybe shouldn't use that list in case.
That's interesting. Okay. I always feel like this is almost a question for the video off. We don't make the reference list ourselves. It's something something that's done for us by a designer. And I think that there's a little bit of ambiguity there that we need to take care of.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is simply right now live adjust the information that's given at the top of that list, because it does say to you, if you want to cite any of these resources in your assignments, copy the citations into your reference list. But there are a couple of, I can see a number of places where the month has been included, and in some of them we wouldn't normally include. Yeah.
Although, and there's also some differences in some apply 6th edition, others apply 7th edition, and there's also a 5th, 4th, 3rd edition. And so often with those editions, it's updated in terms of the ways in which it's then formatted. And so some will have the months and others will. So we just need to be a little bit more consistent. And so this is, thanks again, Lavinia, for bringing this forth. And we'll make note of that. Also, something to be aware of with the comments from your assignments is that often what we as markers do is we kind of, especially for that first assignment, is really try to provide you with in-text comments on where you can improve. They might not necessarily actually sort of influence your grade, but they're just little pointers on going, hey, Lavinia, maybe italics here, and which will make it a lot tighter at the end in terms of like a finished product. Even some of the kind of in-text stuff around what does this mean, or maybe you can expand on this. Those are just little tips on what you can do for the next coming one, but might not necessarily sort of, again, speak into your grade, overall grade. Yeah.
Okay, so I've just updated that so that it says, copy them over, but check that they correspond with APA 7th.
I mean, that's the other thing I was going to say too. If for those that are using programs or software like Zotero or EndNote, in which populates the actual reference and citation within your essay or whatever you're writing, what I always encourage students to do is to just go back and kind of check manually. And if you can, if you're very sort of starting at the start of your like post-grad studies, what you want to do is kind of actually do it manually first so that you know where things go. And then when you're checking, you then know how, where every comma goes, where every sort of bracket goes, which parts are italicized, which parts are, and then it just gives you sort of that formatting skill, and that you can kind of quickly look over things. And it's a really boring skill to have, but it's a good one to have in the coming quarters, where you'll have to do referencing quite often. And for those that are moving on to sort of the master's program, even PhD, right? Very much a real possibility for those that are looking to come into research. You'll have to have that skill of referencing and citing. So it's good to develop that now.
So while we're chatting, I'm just continuing to scroll through. We had specified up to 10 popular press articles for your assignment 2, and it will be at your discretion, I think, how many academic articles, but usually about half a dozen are good. Yeah. And I'm just checking the rubric. Let's make sure that we've got everything there. There we go. So effectively, our rubric actually specifies 6 sources altogether as the bare minimum, 3 of which are academic and 3 are popular press. So that's your absolute bare minimum to get a satisfactory grade for research sources. But you can have sort of up to 10 of those popular press and up to sort of maybe about 6 academic or so. It really
in terms of a maximum.
Yeah, depends how well you can use them, because it's a fairly short report.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the main things, right? Is that you want to, and you'll see this sort of in the exercises coming up and the assessments coming up, is that you want to use those sources in ways in which really, you're using them usefully within your report itself, and not sort of, maybe taking something from the abstract, for instance, and then kind of not including anything else in terms of the actual content or the theory within papers. So the sources in which and they're also not targets, right? It's not to say that kind of going, well, if you get 6 and they're all just random ones in which you've placed sort of, haphazardly around, and actually haven't really sort of read through and considered the discussion and the theories and the implications of the actual paper, then you're not doing yourself any justice, or your work any justice. So think through carefully the types of sources in which you want to use, and don't use that 6 as a target. Don't try to just meet it and go, okay, I've got it.
Yeah. Be discerning.
Yeah.
And when you hit your appendices, which explain that you can list up to 10 examples of popular press coverage, that doesn't necessarily mean that they all have to be different sources. Okay, so you may have 4 sources, but you'll have 10 examples that you've been able to draw out of those 4 sources. So I'll write a really simple little paragraph and put it into an announcement.
Hope that helps, Malcolm, and for those also.
Great question.
Yeah, it was a really good question.
No, thanks. Clears it up beautifully. Cheers.
Excellent.
Awesome.
I'm just putting myself on mute for a minute because my husband is calling me repeatedly.
I was going to say, I thought it was Bruno. It's going to go, Bruno's.
Please excuse me, everybody. It could just be like a dog food situation, or it could be something that needs actually my attention. Be back in a second.
No worries. Okay, so we're at 6:35. Do we have any more few questions? I'll also, after the questions, sort of talk briefly about the assignment, sort of assignment 1, and some of the comments in which you're feeding that back into the cohort. No other questions? Cool. So let me just briefly talk about assignment 1A. And you would have noticed, your comments would have come from either myself or from Leona, who is our graduate teaching assistant. She's currently a PhD candidate within the Management International Business Department. And so she's been an amazing help to us, but she's also very experienced and very generous with her time and marking. And so just wanted to sort of add that there. But by and large, I was actually quite impressed with the reflections in which I reviewed, but also kind of moderating over Leona's marking. I think one of the great things in which I saw was actually just the level of engagement and the responses. And actually what I was really sort of surprised to see was often we saw a lot more of the reflection coming in the discussion or the response to someone else, and then in the reflection, it was a lot of, this is what Milton thinks, and I didn't agree with that, but didn't actually kind of dig a little bit deeper and go, why? Right? What are some of my experiences, or what have I seen in terms of organizations that don't sort of fit this box of shareholder, right? Sort of perspective. And why. And so that's what I'm really going to challenge everyone in our course to do, is to kind of, in that reflection point, give it to us, right? Go, the reason why it doesn't fit or I don't align with this is because my experience here, or because I've seen this. A lot of people also kind of cut that reflection quite short, and just stating that they don't agree with this in one sentence on their example of why they don't, and then kind of ended. But then we saw a lot more of that deeper reflection coming through in their response to someone. Right. So try to flesh that out in your in the reflection itself. And as I mentioned before, we would have made a couple of comments, or made sort of a couple of minor adjustments or corrections within the actual submission, and those will be sort of tips and pointers to think about for next time, but might not necessarily sort of reflect, be in reflection in your grade. What else was there? I think we, with the references in particular, now we were quite, in the instructions, we'd said that you didn't have to, right? But people have done that really well, and that's great. But remember, when you are citing, and when I say cite, it's that in-text citation. If you're referring to a source, you have to have that reference list at the end, right? And in that reference list, making sure that it has the journal title, if it's a journal article, and all of the details, so that the reader can then try to actually find that source, because that's essentially what the reference list is, right? You're acknowledging that statement within the text itself with an in-text citation, but then someone can follow that in-text citation to the end reference list and go, that's where I can actually find this piece of information. And with direct quotes too, make sure that you have a page number, because that then helps the reader to directly find that source. But apart from that, look, everyone passed, like I said before. And so we're really encouraged. It means that you'll hopefully take on our comments and fold that in, and that'll see you progress to the next band of grades. Yeah. Final questions before we tap off and turn off the recording and start the real discussion? No other questions? Awesome. Okay, cool. Well then, I'm not sure if you can, actually I can turn that off. I can stop the recording. I'll stop the recording on my side. Okay.